Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. As the lazy investor, I have tried to make my systems as simple as possible because then I'll more likely to actually follow through with them. And whenever we have a tenant turnover, I like to make the process take as least amount of time as possible. So a lot of times when you list a property, and my last couple I listed on Hemlane, because instead of putting the information out on several platforms, Hemlane, the property management software company, will put it out on I think it's 30 platforms. At least it was last year when I used it. And so I put the information in once, it gets put out there 30 times, but then the applicants will ask for a tour. And I had a system that made it more simple than I've heard people talk about, but Dana, the CEO of Hemlane today, has another idea that might even make it easier. My system was, if a person paid for an application, I would schedule a tour and meet them there. So it took some of my time. If somebody wanted a tour but didn't want to pay for an application, I would do an open house version where I would say Saturday from noon to 2, I'll be at the property. You can come and look, but there's going to be other people there looking too, which I thought added a little bit to the demand because they would see the competition.
Yeah.
I've never actually made it to a Saturday open house because usually there's so much demand. People paid for the application, got a tour and rented it. But Dana, can you share with us this other version that might make it even easier?
Yeah. And let me preface this by saying this other version is something that if you had asked me 8 or 9 months ago, I would have been so opposed to it. So one thing that everyone in real estate knows is that when you're in real estate, and you've actually physically done the day-to-day operations, you're actually a little bit anti-technology. You're like, technology cannot solve everything. You physically need someone to pick up the phone and talk to someone. Like, there is that relationship factor of what you said, Dion, like treat your tenants like you only have one, even when you have 100. Like, it is really important that it's still a people business. You can't automate yourself out of everything. But the one I want to talk about today is self-guided tours. And so with self-guided tours, I was very opposed to them in part because I thought there's theft. If someone knows it's a self-guided tour, someone could break into the property, party there, whatever it is. You have squatter problems. There's so much that could go wrong. Well, there's some technology that's been really important to help change that. I still think you need someone there to do the move-out inspection and, go through and coordinate all the repairs and things like that. So there's certain things where I say you still need a person involved. But with the actual showings of the properties, because tenants are so flaky and they change dates and times and they're 15 minutes late or they're stuck in traffic or their dog died or it's a nice day to go to the beach and they've decided to cancel on you, I'm actually a huge fan of self-guided tours. And here's the technology that changed it. It's biometrics that can verify an identity and a face and instantly say, this is who the person says they are. There is no cause for concern. They should be allowed to have a self-guided tour. So we now do that. You hold your ID up to your face if you have our self-guided tour technology. And what that does is it scans the person's face with the ID. And we also scan the ID and instantly say, okay, is this person legit? Or they say who they are? Is their license a government issued ID that is valid? And have they, submitted the pre-qualifying questions, like is your credit over 600, whatever your qualifications are, have they filled those out? Once they do, then we're able to say, great, you're confirmed for a tour. And what we found is we A/B tested it against so we had agents go out to the property to do the showings. And then we told some agents, we're not going to use agents, we're going to use self-guided technology. And we're going to see what is a better experience. And we started doing this and with properties in the same neighborhoods, because you don't want to compare apples to oranges. You want apples to apples. And so in the same neighborhoods, what we found was with the self-guided tour technology, because it wasn't like, oh, you have to wait till Saturday to see a tour. It's like, you want a tour now, Dion? Do you want one today? I can do 3 to 3:30. I can do 3:30 to 4. I can do 4 to 4:30. Dion's running 30 minutes late. No problem. He can do 4:30 to 5. By having that, we were able to get a lot more people in and get a lot more people excited about it. And then what we would do is once you're at the property, you type in the code for the lockbox, text it. We then send the code to say, here's the code to get in. It's a single use. So the code expires right after they've used it. They can tour the property. And then they leave, they can't use the code anymore. Some folks have asked, what about break-ins, theft, whatever it may be, something sketchy happening? To date, we haven't seen, it happens very rarely that there's a break-in or a squatter. We haven't seen that self-guided tours, that actually increases. We've actually seen that If there's going to be a break-in, it's going to happen in either case of like a squatter coming in. However, we can catch it faster if it's a self-guided tour because we're doing self-guided tours every day. It's within 24 hours that we pretty much, like within 12 hours the next morning, we find, hey, there's a broken window, which has, by the way, only happened twice with, I think it's like 10,000 homes or something, like a large number, where we can basically say confidently that, hey, with those 10,000 tours that we've done, like, hey, someone walks in and says, hey, it looks like someone broke the window or something, they report it and we can get the handyman out within that day. And so if you would ask me 9 months ago, I would have said I'm not a huge fan of self-guided tours. I think that it could be unsafe. You really need to know your property. You need to be there. But in speaking with our leasing agents and A/B testing it, it actually has worked out significantly better because it's reduced vacancy. It's not increased the safety risk that we've seen at all. And that's just based on our data and our numbers. And it's also provided tenants a much better experience because for them, they can get in that day immediately and view the place, and we can close them before they go to another property because we can call them right after and say, how do you like the tour? Here's exactly our process. We're here to help you, and go through that. So that is self-guided tour technology for you.
I like that is really a good upgrade to something that I have done in the past. It was probably 2016, 2017. I was traveling. I think I was in Colombia with my brother, and I had a tenant moving out, tenant moving in. I had 4 days to get everything done.
Wow.
And I was at the point in time I was using Cozy. It hadn't been purchased by apartments.com yet.
Apartments.com yet.
And all of my units have coded locks, and I use the Arlo security system. So I have, online ability to look through camera. So I had shared codes with tenants to go and look and make sure that it was what they wanted. It was a Section 8 tenant moving in. And I didn't have one-time use codes, so I had to make sure that after the view was done, my handyman actually goes while he's doing other things for the tenant turnover to change the codes. So this is a much simpler system, and it sounds a lot more safe than what I was doing.
But it's similar. It's a very similar process. It's just a little bit more automated.
Yeah, and almost everything I do with real estate, I try to limit the amount of time I'm required to do. It's where I can always choose to be more involved with the handyman or the contractor or the tenant, but when I need to, I can step back. So I'm a fan. I'll probably be using this in the future, especially with a 3-month trip to Thailand coming up. And I know I have one tenant in the Air Force that's getting orders, so I'll have a tenant turnover while I'm gone, and I will let everybody know how that goes.
Yeah, we would love that.
Nice. And if you have any other questions, you can reach Dana at Dana, DANA at hemlane.com. And I think you said you prefer emails.
I love emails. And then if you want to try our services, also there's How Did You Hear About Us? So just mention Dion Talk because you get 20% off your first year.
Awesome. Thank you. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is, please note, the new number is